Hey guys, Chloe here. So today I'm finally filming my birth story video and kind of just explaining everything that went down for Gwen's arrival, and also kind of touching on why I chose a natural labor and basically all the steps and techniques that I used during my labor just to make it more painless, even though it was like super painful. But so this is just a disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about my natural birth in this video. But I just wanted to say, honestly, it doesn't matter whether you have a natural birth or a C-section, or if you get an epidural, or if you don't, just for a variety of reasons. All that matters is that you get a happy, healthy baby at the end of it. So the main reason why I wanted a natural birth was kind of uh, for my own curiosity of just wanting to see if I could do it mainly. I've always been kind of a competitive person, so this to me was like a challenge. Like, oh, like, can you do it? Can you push your body to its limit during this and not get any medication? I think that was kind of the main thing. The second reason was mainly because I was actually scared of the side effects of like pain medications, like getting the epidural. I felt like I had heard so many horror stories of women who get epidurals and they go numb for a few days, or they have like or it stops the labor and your labor's longer. So I was actually more scared of getting an epidural than I was of the actual pain of labor. So that's how I kind of had the mindset that I like did not want an epidural at all, and it kind of did work because I didn't end up getting it. One of the last reasons why I wanted a natural labor was I had seen this movie, this documentary called The Business of Being Born, and it kind of explained the historical context of how women's labors and deliveries have changed over time, and just explained how nowadays a lot of doctors push to just for all women to just have medications during their labor and delivery process, which is not always necessary. So just adding real fast, I had something called a doula. So quickly, I'm gonna explain to you guys what a doula is, because when I first heard of a doula, I was like, what the hell is that? But basically, it's someone who you hire outside of like your doctor or anyone else. But basically, it's someone who comes and kind of coaches you during your birth. It's kind of a weird word to use, coaches you, but they're there to support you and just help you with different pain management techniques. So in some of the clips and pictures I'm gonna insert after, you might see a woman there, and that's my doula. Her name was Amber, and she was like honestly so great. And I seriously owe my natural birth to her, because she was always so hands on and really helped Zenon and I out, because we wouldn't have really known what to do as much as I planned for it. She helped so much in helping time my contractions and just using different techniques to deal with the pain. So thank you, Amber. So this is where I guess it begins my birth story, and basically everything that went down. Are you waking up, Mama? But I went into labor at school. It was my last day of classes at USC. So that was April 26th, and it was a Friday. Um, and I woke up that morning, and I hadn't had like any pain at all during my entire pregnancy. So I had woke up and I had like cramps, and I was like, like that's kind of interesting. Like I've never felt that before. And it just felt like really like cramping, so I didn't really think much of it. I had texted Zenon and my mom like, I'm kind of having cramps, but it's like nothing. And it was that day that I had hit 38 weeks. So in my head, I'm like, you're probably just excited that you're finally like could have the baby any day. Yes, Gwen. So I thought like it was just in my head that like she was coming. And I really don't want to be one of those people that like goes to the hospital and is like, it's just like false labor. So I stayed at school the entire day. I was actually moving out that day, so even my parents were on campus helping me move out. Um, so I was like packing my bags and moving around that day, and I even went to one of my last classes. And it was having, like, throughout the entire day, I was having, I guess, um, what were contractions. Although at that time, I was like, these are just cramps. They're gonna go away. It's false labor. Um, and then it just kept happening through the whole day, and I was like, like, that's interesting. Like, uh, that doesn't really make sense of why that's happening besides me going into labor. Um, so then that night, I finally got home. I unpacked everything, and that night, I packed my hospital bag because I hadn't yet. Because I was expecting her to come 3 weeks down the road or whatever. But I was like, okay, just in case, I need to pack my hospital bag, which thank God I did. Zen and I even went to Target to pick up some last minute items that night, just in case, because I was like, honestly, like, I don't think I'm in labor. Um, so then that night, Zenon had gone home because I was like, honestly, it's probably not, like, it's probably gonna stop, because I had heard stories of like people like cramping and then it like stopping. So that night, so it was now the 27th, that Saturday. It was about 3:30 in the morning. Okay, it was 3:30 in the morning, and I was like, okay, these are like, I think these are contractions, because they hadn't stopped yet, and they were getting like, not painful, but they were getting like definitely stronger. So at that point, I called Zenon and my doula, and Zenon got here like around 4, and we were just like lying here, and I wasn't, I really wasn't in like a lot of pain, like, at all, and I was still even hesitant to call my doula because I felt bad, that she would have to drive out here and it might just be like false labor, and it might just stop. So I was just kind of laboring in my bed, and I had taken a shower just to get ready, just in case. And then we noticed that they were definitely increasing, and I was feeling a lot more pain. Like, it wasn't like me yelling or anything, but it was just like, okay, like, that hurts. Yeah. So my doula got here around 7, and it was basically at that time that they were definitely like ramping up, and it was kind of like at that point that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm having a baby today. um I think the fact that she had come at 38 weeks, like, it was so surreal that I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that I was in labor and that I was going to meet my baby that day, because everything just happened so fast. One day I was at school, and the next I was in the hospital pushing her out. Um, so that was really interesting. So my doula got here, and that's when I was in need of different pain coping techniques, because it was getting a little, it was hurting more at that point. So the first thing that we did, oh, also, oh, I forgot to mention, I had planned to labor at home as much as possible. They really recommend that when you're having a natural hospital birth, is just stay at home as long as possible in the comfort of your home, um, which is like so helpful, because you don't really have nurses checking on you. You're able just to relax. We had the TV on, we had music playing. It was just a lot more comfortable. Um, but one of the first pain coping techniques, or just techniques that we used in general, was something called the peanut ball. So basically, what the peanut ball is I'm lying on the bed, and it's like this exercise ball that's shaped in a peanut shape, and you put your legs, like you scissor it. Basically, you scissor the peanut ball to like open your legs. But basically, it widens your pelvis and helps you dilate a lot faster. And like, studies have even proved that it actually works. So I was like, hell yeah, give me the peanut ball. Let's push this baby out. Um, So we did the peanut ball. We would kind of like go through different things. So the peanut ball, and then we used a regular exercise ball that I was like just like rolling on, which helped a lot because it's just you want to stay moving when you're in labor, because if you just lie there, chances are your labor is going to last forever because your body's just like not in movement. So that's why whenever a contraction came, I tried to keep like moving through it. I mean, it's painful, but it's what's going to help push the baby out faster. So, another thing that we did was something called the rebozo. Basically, it's a long scarf that was Zenon helped with this one, but basically he wrapped it under my stomach, and I was like on all fours, and you kind of just like shimmy it, and it kind of just helps relax your like stomach muscles. So that was another thing we did. So I labored at home till about 10:30 a.m. Um, and we were timing my contractions throughout this whole time, and it they you get to a certain point where your contractions are, I think it was when they're 3 minutes apart and they're lasting a whole minute long for an hour, that it's time to go to the hospital. So when we got to that point finally, it was like, okay, let's get the bags, let's get over there. So we get to the hospital, and that car ride, I mean, it wasn't fun because you don't really want to be like jolting around in a car when you're having like really bad contractions. So the hospital was about like 25 minutes away, and we got there, and we got off, and it was so funny because I knew that I was probably really dilated, but I think most nurses, when you finally get there, they kind of like just think you're probably like 2 or 3 centimeters dilated. Um, but I was having like really bad contractions, and the check-in took pretty long because they had me like signing forms and stuff, and I'm like in a lot of pain, and they were even like, oh, like how long have you been having contractions? And I was like, oh, like I explained everything, and I explained where my contractions were at, and they were just like, okay, like they didn't really think anything of it. And then they put me in like triage, and I was just like waiting there, and finally like the nurse came in, and I'm having bad contractions at this point, and she's just like, okay, well, we'll check you and see if we admit you. I was like, oh, you're gonna admit me? Like I've been like having really bad contractions for a long time. um so it's so funny because she she checked me, and she didn't even like say a word to Zenon and I. She like opened the hallway door and like yelled down, "We got a 7," because I was 7 centimeters dilated, which is like pretty far along for someone who's just getting to the hospital. So at that point, like a bunch of like nurses started rushing in and like just like checking me and making sure my vitals were good. And most people, I think, are in triage for like 1 to 2 hours because you're kind of just waiting there. I think I was in there for like 20 minutes maybe because they wanted me in the delivery room right away. Um, so we got to the delivery room, and basically I was still using some of the pain techniques, pain coping techniques that I was doing here. Um, so, I mean, it all went really smoothly. I had such a great team of nurses, and my midwife was amazing. Um, and they were all really on board with me having a natural labor. I know it's really tough for women who get like doctors or nurses who kind of don't really care about your plan. But I was so lucky because my nurses were like, "Oh my gosh, like this is so awesome! Like, of course, like we'll help you with everything." And my doula was still with me, and she was still helping me. And my mom was in the room, and then Zenon was there too. So I had such a great support team. Like, I honestly couldn't have done it without all those people that were there. Okay, my camera had died. But basically, I was at the point where I was just talking about my midwives, and the point where I got into like the delivery room. So it was about 11 when I got to the hospital, and I had her at 2. So I was only in the hospital for a short amount of time. I would say the first hour that I was there, the contractions really, they were pretty, they were painful, but not to the point of where I was like screaming or anything. So I was just doing the same techniques that I had been doing at home. I had fixed up the room that I was in to how I liked it with the lights dim, and but I would say maybe after an hour that I was at that room, that's definitely where the contractions just started getting a lot more intense, and just like painful. I can't really describe it any way else, but it just got like super bad. And at that point, I couldn't even have gotten an epidural. I mean, I didn't really need one, but even if I had wanted one, I was like so far along that I couldn't have gotten one. So, I was just sitting on the bed in my misery, but I mean, it wasn't terrible. Until I hit like 9 centimeters, and the last 45 minutes before she came, oh my god, the pain was just, it was so intense. Like, it seriously felt like someone was just like stabbing me with a knife over and over again. I can't really, I would think that's how it felt. I can't really describe it any ways else, but it just feels like a period cramp times like 1,000. You just feel like someone's like basically like wringing out your entire body. I can't really describe it anyways else, but that was only for the last portion. I'm not trying to scare anyone, but basically that was just the last 45 minutes. That was the last 30 minutes, and then the last 18 minutes were me pushing her out. So the pushing part was a little interesting because I didn't know that you're supposed to like push when you have a contraction. So I was just like pushing and pushing, like with it, like every movement I was just like pushing and pushing, but I wasn't supposed to. At that point my water had just broken. It was crazy. Like, it seriously was like someone popped a balloon and my water went like, it was so weird, really gross. But my water had broken, so we were like, okay, the baby's like coming. So at that point I was just like pushing all over the place. But the thing was, I didn't really learn how to push correctly. I was just tightening my body and tightening like every muscle. One thing that ended up happening because I was doing this was I broke a bunch of blood vessels in my face. I had gone to the bathroom after I had her, and I looked in the mirror and I was like, what the heck? Because suddenly my entire face, and even like my neck, it was just speckled in like red dots. And from me pushing incorrectly and like tightening my face, I had managed to just break a bunch of blood vessels. So FYI, if you're pregnant and you're gonna be having a baby soon, when you push, make sure you push with your stomach and not with your face, like me. So I pushed for 18 minutes and then she came. But there was one point when I was pushing, I guess her head was already like out, and it was so weird because the midwife was like, do you want to feel your baby? And I remember putting my hand down there and like feeling a nose. Oh my gosh. It was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's my baby's face. So it was like 3 pushes later that she came out, and it was such like a rush of emotions because suddenly you finally get to meet what you've been carrying for 9 months and preparing for, and you're just you're so in love, and you're suddenly out of pain. Yes, I'm talking about you. You're suddenly out of pain. She's waking up. Hi, baby. You're suddenly out of pain, and it's just get
your head out. Hi, baby. Hi, and we're just drying her off. Okay. Well, thanks for taking that.
Oh my god, baby girl.
Hey,
I love you so much. Oh my god.
We're good.
Oh
Great.
my god.
Yeah.
thing ever. Huh? Oh my god, you know I'm talking about you, huh, Mama? She's finally waking up. So, yeah, that basically explains everything that went down of how Gwen was born. Um, so, yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. Um, like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll try to be posting more videos soon, and maybe more frequently now that I'm getting used to little Miss Gwen here. So, thanks, guys. Oh, you're waking up. I'm sorry.